I'm just going to wait a brief moment to allow for a few more people to join us. Okay, so we'll get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today's Shop Talk. My name is Chantel Bartlett, and I'm the manager of member engagement programs at SME. And today's Shop Talk will address women driving manufacturing forward. Before we start, I'd like to review a few housekeeping notes. Everyone is muted to reduce the background noise. You are invited to freely use the chat box throughout today's program, and to ask our panelists any questions or share your insights. For post-event questions, feel free to email SME membership at membership.sme.org. Did I just say that? Membership@sme.org. That sounded wrong, but right. So today we are joined, I'm very excited to introduce our panel today, Gabriella Daris, Tara Thomason, Jamisa Stokes, and Allison Ledford. So I'm actually going to ask the ladies to do a very brief introduction, and I'm going to go kind of in order that I see everybody. So Jamisa, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Jamisa Stokes, and I am a materials research engineer here at NASA's Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio. I became a civil servant back in 2018, but have been working here pretty much full time as I was getting ready to defend my thesis. Really came here for work, really enjoyed the fact that our research center has expertise in what I work on, which is materials and structures for extreme environments for aeronautics and aerospace. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Allison.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Allison Ledford, and I'm an assistant research professor at Auburn University, and I'm located in the Auburn University Research and Innovation Campus in Huntsville, Alabama. My research is in the area of digital engineering and digital manufacturing, and so I love all things process flow improvement. So that's kind of my thing.
Thanks, Allison. Gabriella.
Hi, everybody. Gabriella Dares here. I'm an account executive with Microsoft. I've been around manufacturing pretty much my whole career. I started in consulting, business consulting, different levels, different initiatives. Then I moved into an engineering and technology service provider, heavily focused in manufacturing. Then I was a manufacturing engineering manager at Caterpillar, and then I moved to Microsoft. First as an industry advisor for the manufacturing industry, and now I'm an account executive where I support manufacturing companies on their digital transformation journey. Very nice to be here.
Thank you. And Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Thomason. I am a technical fellow at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company in Fort Worth, Texas. My specialty is in advanced material processing, which really means I wear many hats and solve problems on our production floor. I get to play and have fun every day is what I say, but it depends on the day whether I'm having fun. We work on composites, additive manufacturing, getting into the high temp materials here and there now. We really get to see lots of different types of manufacturing. Digital transformation is something that we get into all the time now. I've lived that life for several years as well. So lots of different things, and really have seen how the manufacturing world has changed just in the last 10 years. So happy to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Tara. And for those of you in the audience, we'd love to know more about your journey. Share with us if you're a student, are you an emerging professional or a seasoned expert, and what role you play in the manufacturing industry. So feel free to pop that into the chat box. So we can get started with our conversation today. What motivated you to pursue a career in manufacturing, and how did you begin your journey in this field? So I'm actually going to start with Gabriella.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Chantel. I love manufacturing. I think ever since I was in high school, I've loved how things are made, how things are transformed as I continue to develop through my early years in my college career. I felt like I got more and more passionate about how things were made. I had opportunity to get into manufacturing floors. I had opportunity to visit research and development centers, and I loved it. So the more I got involved with manufacturing, the more I felt the joy and professional realization, and the more I wanted to get involved in manufacturing. So that's how it all started, and where I am today.
And Allison, how about you?
Yeah, so funny enough, it was actually SME that got me into manufacturing. Yeah, I did my undergrad degree when I was still doing my undergraduate degree in industrial and systems engineering at Auburn University. I was I think I was a sophomore, and I had a friend who was like, "Hey, we are making this new student chapter for Society of Manufacturing Engineers, and you should join." And this cool. And at first, it started off just as me trying to get involved with an organization because I really wasn't involved in any professional organizations at that point. But when I got in, I fell in love with it, and I was our first president of the student chapter. We had some people from the local SME chapter reach out to us and invite us to FabTech. And really, I think FabTech was really kind of what won me over. Just seeing just all of these like amazing machines and people and processes. Just I don't know. It was just like it just blew me away, and I fell in love.
That's so awesome. Especially the plug for SME.
Yeah.
Jamisa.
Yeah, so like funny enough, when I actually started college, I started as a studio art major. And then it wasn't until so I was also an undergrad at Auburn, and I ended up being pre-architecture, and then finally I switched my major to physics. And that slowly led me to start doing NASA internships. And it wasn't until I came to Cleveland for the first time for an internship here at Glenn Research Center that I was able to work on materials, and specifically high temperature materials for thermal insulation for thermal protection systems. And so that's what really got me into material science and engineering, and what led me to ultimately getting my PhD in material science and engineering from Penn State. And so while doing that graduate degree, number one, I worked on something I'd never heard of before, which were these barrier coatings for airplane engine parts. So that led me to learning more information about how airplane engines work, how the components are made, the different materials that go into airplane engines, and why we need them to ultimately make airplane engines more fuel efficient. But in addition to that, being able to do my graduate fellowship through Glenn and experiencing other applications for materials for extreme environments, that really inspired me to want to work here. And so the year before I defended my thesis, I was offered a pathways position, which is a civil servant position where they hire you while you're still a student. So I got that, which was nice because I had a job lined up. So by the time I was getting ready to defend my thesis, I was already a full-time government employee, and that's how I ended up here.
That's so exciting. And Tara.
So I'm going to tell you a little story. I don't know how many of you have had parents who worked in manufacturing before you, but my father swore he never wanted any of his kids to be engineers because engineers thought they were very smart and knew how everything worked because they read it in a book. But they would refuse to come down the floor and see how things actually worked. And so that stuck with me. And he didn't hate us that two of the three of us became engineers, and let alone two of us work in the defense industry, which he also did. He couldn't believe that either. But it really stuck in my mind that I needed to understand how the process worked. It almost out of respect for him, but it really did open my eyes that I needed to understand what I was asking someone else to do. So, but it was really the application. I love the application of things. The theoretical, I didn't find enjoyment in the theoretical side of things. I really liked the application of it. And so manufacturing, you're building something, you're assembling something. Um, that's what excited me. You know, I'm getting my hands dirty. Um, you're around other people. And so it's really just all of that that really makes me enjoy the manufacturing world.
Mhm.
So that's how I got here.
Great. So we actually have had a couple share in the chat. And I hope I'm not killing her name, Swati. 15 years being in the manufacturing industry, and she's now started her own consulting firm to help automotive SME manufacturers improve their profits by boosting operational efficiency. Justina is a graduate student at WPI reading manufacturing engineering management, fell in love with manufacturing after finishing undergrad degree, and now looking forward to build a career in the industry. And Anne Marie, quality manager with Comfrey USA, also overseeing EHS departments and SME Nashville chapter 43 chair. Overall involved with SME for 11 years and manufacturing for 19. And Kim, manufacturing her entire career, 30 years, all areas of manufacturing, continuous improvement, project management, sales, plant engineering, cost estimation, currently aero defense contractor. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us. So how about success? Can you ladies share a significant moment in your career that contributed to your success in manufacturing? Tara.
Gosh. So I've had a couple, I guess. I'll focus on one in particular. I was working on a project with a mentor, and really, I'll say having mentors have really guided me a lot and really have helped me be successful in my career. We were working on a very difficult problem in our factory, and just being able to troubleshoot and learn from him and break that problem down and learn that sticking with it and not letting the adversity um, get me down. And really it was kind of a life lesson, career lesson type thing, but that whole experience set me up and gave me the opportunity to brief leadership. It really opened a lot of doors for me, but it also taught me I need to get out of my comfort zone. I am a gigantic introvert, huge introvert, capital I, like flashing neon eye. And so for me to do that took a lot of energy out of myself. And so putting myself out there with all that risk or perceived risk was a lot, and it did pay off. And so that doing those types of things, getting out of my comfort zone, is really what led me to where I am today and being a fellow and understanding and taking those risks.
Gabriella.
Sure. I was just thinking about, I had a similar question before too, and I was thinking about one particular moment, and it's hard for me to pinpoint to one moment that contributed to my success in manufacturing. I looked at it more from moments that have changed my career or have been pivotal throughout my development and have made me who I am, right? So I look back, and you guys heard me talk before how I started in consulting, and then I moved to an engineering and technology provider, then I moved to manufacturing. So I've gone through positions where I reach points where I'm like, okay, this was great to see where comes next, right? So I remember the first time when I was in consulting, we had a very big transformational project with a customer, Fortune 500 company. Took months to develop, large investment. And we had to do the final presentation, and we're there in front of like the C-suite plus high level senior leadership. And you come into a moment where you look at your work that you have done in the past, all your contribution, how is this impacting such a large organization and how is it changing the future. And it was a great moment for me to realize that, and also realize I wanted to be on the other side. So that made me move into the manufacturing. I want to focus more in manufacturing. I want to get more involved in what is the hands-on. So then I moved into the engineering technology, manufacturing engineering services and technology provider, heavily working on manufacturing, anywhere from medical to mining to aerospace. Love it, love everything. And I've ended up in delivering projects where you're really transforming manufacturing, how they are doing things. You're bringing technology, you're bringing innovation to really accomplish a lot of manufacturing for very complex parts. And you realize, okay, I want to be closer to the leadership that is driving these changes. So then it made me move to the manufacturing management position at Caterpillar. So throughout my career, I see this as like there's different roles, different moments that really shape perspectives that help me move on. And when I looked at some of the success that I had throughout my career, has been really putting those things in perspective to really deliver a solution.
Allison.
Yeah, so again, yeah, that is a really good question and a really difficult question. But if I had to narrow it down to one moment, or I guess I'm actually going to two moments, it would be this. So I did an internship with the U.S. Army when I think I was going into my junior year of undergrad. And it was there that I had really my first group of mentors at this prototyping organization. And they realized that they're like, hey, you're really into like process improvement. Have you heard of this thing called Industry 4.0? Have you heard of digital transformation? And then they really just empowered me. Like it was crazy. They empowered me to go and talk to people and to go and really start kind of my research journey and digging into things. And just those people taking the time to see what I was interested in and to really foster what I was doing just really kind of got me into that with looking at manufacturing. And that ultimately led to the second main moment for me, which was meeting my PhD advisor, Dr. Greg Harris, who is an SME technical fellow. And he spoke at one of my classes, my Manufacturing 1 class at Auburn, and was talking about digital transformation. And I was like, oh my goodness, I did this in an internship. And he was like, hey, have you considered doing a PhD? And I was like, not really, but that sounds fun. So let's do it. So really just those few moments, it was, and what I would say it really all boiled down to was that, and just how I joined the SME chapter in undergrad is I think it was really just, I was open to new things, being open to connections. And it really came down to people being willing to reach out to me and say, hey, have you considered this? And I think that really made all the difference, is people who are willing to take the time to reach out to me and see if I was, and just really expand my horizons to think about things I'd never thought of before.
And Jamisa.
So I think a pivotal moment to me, and I think I really like your point about expanding your horizons and trying new things, Allison. It was also when I was at Auburn and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. After I changed my major to physics, I was doing these internships. Actually, this was right before I started taking all my internships. We had an exchange program through the Polymer Fiber Engineering Department at Auburn with a university in Germany. And this was my very first time leaving the country, living in a different country. So I did this study abroad experience at this university called Hochschule Reutlingen. And it was all about based around textile technology and management. So during this study abroad experience, I not only, got to learn about textile manufacturing and engineering, but it also, part of it had case studies in the automotive industry, since I was in a region of Germany that there's a bunch of huge car companies there. So from that standpoint, it was really eye-opening in the sense of, no, I did not eventually go into textile technology and management, but just another experience of learning new things, especially since I sew my own clothes sometimes. And I also crochet and I have all these creative outlets. Also connecting the fact that I was coming from this very artistic background, trying to find who I was going to be as a scientist or engineer, even though I didn't quite know yet. So then also seeing how those two worlds sort of merge together and how they feed into each other. I think that was a really pivotal experience for me.
That is so cool that I also sew and crochet. So I wonder like how many women in manufacturing are also craft girlies.
Well, let's
There's
put
so
that
many.
put
Yeah,
that out
sorry,
for
Rochelle.
those of us who are attending. If you are also artistic, yep. Kim just said she sews as well. So maybe it helps to balance, like kind of that technical brain to have that creative side too.
Yeah, there's so many of my friends here who, like coworkers in my branch, there's so many artists here of different, like, we have a band on center, we have the Glen Band, so many musicians, a lot of woodworkers in my branch, different things. Like I myself, I also do collage and mixed media. So I think there's definitely a connection there, very technical people who are also very artistic.
Definitely.
Tara, Gabriella, any artistic creative outlets?
I have many, but I think I do compensate. Like personally, I like to compensate, coming off of a long day or a long week, I like to do my own activities that are not related to manufacturing at all. So yeah, I do most of that. I do painting. I do a lot of sports too, so I think that helps. From my management, I found a really good connection between and it's not like news because I know many people know it, but when you're trying to bring those activities into your work environment and really give a little bit of perspective and like brain breathing, it really does help to turn around some of the conversations, trigger more ideas, and generate more. I want to say like the collaboration, the teamwork also helps that. So I found really beneficial to make some of those two, not necessarily separate them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tara, any
But
creative
like
outlets? Oh, sorry, Gabriella. No, continue.
I like the common theme of like how people have influenced our journey, how people have influenced our decisions, right? Allison, Jamisa, you guys brought up like great examples. And I'm also part of the SME, and I think the SME also has helped me like professionally, personally, and in like the many decisions that I have made through my career. So love that.
And I think that's a really good testimonial too for SME, right? Like I think the lifelong friends and connections that you make through whether it be SME or other organizations. Obviously, I'm very biased, but I think that's a big positive if you get involved with organizations because that's going to only enrich your career and your personal and professional life. So we had a couple others share their career. Veronica, she's with Tampa Bay Academy of Hope, and she's a program manager developing registered apprenticeship programs through the Department of Labor. One of the sectors is manufacturing. Places DEIA participants from underserved urban and rural areas in training and employment opportunities in the manufacturing industry. And she loves the all-women panel. So thank you. And Isla is actually a colleague of mine. She's technical program manager for SME, and she does the FabTech education, developing the content for conference. So she said, thank you, Allison, for the.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about challenges? I think we can all talk about challenges that we have faced, but is there a specific challenge that you faced and how were you able to overcome it? And, did it lead to enhanced professional or personal growth? Gabriella, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think more a challenge if very particular situation that I always look back, and it was very early in my career. I was working in consulting, and I had a big project that was really working on improving manufacturing for one of our customers. So really, we had targets on manufacturing efficiency. And I was coming in at the tail end of a project that was already going for some time, and they weren't having the results they expected, right? Very early in my career, I'm new, an external vendor, don't know the team, never work with them, come into a situation where expectations are high, there's like a little bit of a tension, and I had to deliver, right? And then that added on top of the fact that, and I think many can relate on this, especially if you worked in manufacturing about like 10 plus years ago, it's very male oriented, right? And I'm like a female coming in. So coming into manufacturing from college, definitely there was that stereotype, right? There's not, it's a very male oriented, it's a hard environment. You'll have to figure out your ways around it. So I coming into this project, and honestly, I was like, I want to say terrified, but I was really worried, right? Because then I'm coming in to lead this, and there's definitely a past experience. As I'm ramping up with the team that was working on it previous than I took over, I'm trying to like think about like the many things I can do, or I could do better, or I could change to make this work. What I would explore, what I wouldn't do, what I would do, what I would change. And like it seemed like my ideas were bouncing against the wall, right? A lot of these things were already tried and they didn't have success with it. So that made me even more nervous. I'm like, okay, I'm going into this, I gotta deliver, and there's all this past history and I gotta like make changes. Anyway, I think I went all in. I think I went over prepared. I tried to think about this from the many different ways. I tried to do my research. I've tried to learn as much as I could about the process, the company, the people, and so on. And honestly, the results were outstanding, right? It was amazing. Even though it was it was everything that I expected. It was a very male oriented. They were stuck on their own ways. It was very traditional manufacturing. There's a lot of challenges and so on. There's a lot of benefits that come out. And I think being a little bit over prepared helped me a little bit face the challenge and come out on the other side on success. But I've learned a lot through that experience, right? Definitely don't let the perceptions predetermine the future, right? Don't get hung up on what they tell you on what's past. Define how are you going to succeed on the future. I think being prepared was a good thing, but I've learned a lot on the personal side, on the collaboration, really understanding empathy, right? Understanding where people are, what are they thinking, what are they struggling with, and really coming out to help them. And I might not be an expert. This is very early in my career, so I didn't know everything. So I've leveraged resources that were from my company, from my customer company, that were out there in manufacturing, in the industry suppliers, to really land this project, and it worked out well, right? So a lot on the personal side, a lot on the professional side, but it really shaped the way that I tackle on projects even until today, right? So it's like, hey, people are telling you this, people are saying this is the situation. Every new project, every new engagement, every new team, every new person, every new association, it's a new adventure for me. So take it the best you can, be prepared, learn as much as you can, and be open to hear what people have to say, right? Because I found a lot of wonderful lessons and experiences that shape the way I am.
Jamisa, was there a particular challenge that has helped you?
I think for me, just in general, as a researcher, when you're trained to be a researcher, you're going through school, it's something that's always in the back of your mind, but you never think about the fact that you could fail. Like you're always wanting to make the next best thing. You're always you want to be an innovator. And it never occurs to you, it's like, hey, that isn't going to work. I've definitely had moments like that already, and I've only, been out of my PhD program for now going on 5 years. Actually, it was towards the end of my PhD. I think that's when I had that very first, like, oh, I put forward a hypothesis to finish out my thesis, and it didn't work the way I wanted to. I made the material, I tested it. It was not a great improvement over the state of the art that was already there, and I had to write that in my thesis. Like, I couldn't lie about that. Science, like, the data's there, so I have to tell the story. And so that's definitely a lesson that has stuck with me so far. Is that it's okay if something doesn't work. Often we think in science and engineering there's a yes and a no, but there's a lot of things in between, especially with research. And so just working through those tough moments, and just realizing there's always something new that you can try to make something better, I think has helped me in the long run.
Allison, do you have something to share?
Yeah, first of all, I love everything Jamessa just said about the way it is with research. That is very true. And I think it's really important to. I've definitely had times like that where there have been something that little rabbit trails that I've gone down when trying to do literature reviews or trying to find things that I want to focus on to research, where it seems like things just are not going to be useful at all. But you can always somehow, like, even not being able to find the answer you want, but finding out that something's a dead end, that in and of itself has value because it shows you like the path you've gone down. But anyway, that was a little rabbit trail there. But I think that one of the main challenges that I've really faced has been I actually have like a variable disability. I have a connective tissue disorder and an immune system disorder that thankfully I have gotten treatment for it. I'm a lot better for. But there have been times where I have had to do things like working from home. When I was doing my dissertation, I was pregnant with my first child, and that made my health issues worse. And so there were times that I really just wish that I could be like going, to the manufacturing floors and actually looking at things in person. But I was having to do things more through virtual means and by really just utilizing the internet sources. And so I think that even though that has brought disappointment that I can't be constantly on the go, like I don't have the energy to be traveling all the time and doing things, it has really helped me to kind of focus in on what I am able to accomplish and to find workarounds and other means to be able to keep my energy levels up and to be able to find ways to become more efficient in the ways I'm researching. So I think it's helped me become, even though I don't feel like I have as much energy as I used to when I was an undergrad, I feel like I'm way, way, way more efficient at getting things done and getting research out because I've kind of been able to focus in on things. So it's been good because it's allowed me to do that.
That's awesome. I think in a way that goes along a little bit with Isla said, I could be wrong, but find women are more empathetic leaders and does go a long way. And I think this is a very generalized terminology saying, but I mean, I think we're multitaskers, right? So we learn quickly how to maximize our time, and so yeah. How about some innovative solutions? Is there an example of a unique perspective or creative solution you've implemented in your role? Well, in a way, Allison, you've had to do that, right? But also, how have you collaborated with others in industry to investigate and implement unique solutions? So I'll stay with you, Allison.
Yeah, so I actually, for my dissertation, I developed the first methodology that allows you to be able to identify, visually map, and analyze data threads throughout a system that were previously hidden. And it's called Data Element Mapping and Analysis, or DEMA. And we currently have we got a patent for it that was recently allowed, so it's about to be issued. And a follow-on patent that was one of the first continuous improvement methodologies specifically for digital engineering that builds upon DEMA. And that came about through industry collaboration, working with the Army. The Army is actually a co-inventor of the first patent. And that's for anyone who's considering academia, and even not just academia, but any sort of innovative project in your organization. I think that you have to start by doing a thorough review of what's already out there, because there may be things that you can kind of borrow from and pull from. For example, the DEMA, the methodology I developed, is rooted in some principles that I merged from systems engineering and from industrial engineering, like going all the way back to like Frederick Taylor and the Gilbreths with his process mapping. There are all these things that I kind of went in together. So I think that it's really important that you're not only collaborating with industry to be able to find out what they really need, but that you also are at least doing some sort of rigorous, to the extent necessary, review of literature and what's already out there, so that you can know where research gaps are and figure out really what is the research gap. You've got to narrow down, and you've got to see what's been done, and you've got to collaborate with people. And that's kind of my spill on that.
Tara, how about you? A unique perspective or creative solution you've implemented?
Well, I may take this in a slightly different way, but
Sure.
Like on to what Allison was just saying, I'm also an adjunct at TCU, and I teach Manufacturing 1. And my students were giving their presentations at the end of the year, and I made a comment to them about, did you Google, did you look at other solutions first? Google is my first go-to. Google Patents, Google Scholar, check what's out there in industry or, in public domain. And I'll say the 3-professor panel, one of them turned around and said, oh, you can't tell them to use Google. And I was like, why not? We use it all the time. What do you have them do? And so it's, if anyone's not doing what Allison said, and Jamisa, I'm sure Google, everyone uses those types of things. We don't go to the library anymore and go, get the card catalog out. Of course, you two are so young, you probably never did that to start with, but we use those types of resources all the time to see what is out there and what are the latest innovative solutions for us to look at. And so a lot of what we do now is, I'm currently working with a company, and this was actually out in recently in a press release. We're working with some companies in the Czech Republic to look at using additive manufacturing to print parts for the F-35, and in very innovative ways that we haven't done anywhere else. And so it's very, very, I'll say high risk, high reward, but it is very much the Czech Republic, and their government wants to increase their industrial base. And so, they want to see that kind of innovation. Whereas here, I'll say the Air Force and Navy, they're like, we don't want to do that. That's too high risk type of thing. And so, even our own folks would say, oh, that's too high risk. We don't even want to fund that, but they will. And so it's like, will it work? We don't know. So it's like, we're working with those innovative partners in industry to see what is the art of the possible. So I do those types of things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in the past, I've worked with the Navy Mantech groups, and then, AFRL as well, the Air Force Mantech groups. They some fantastic folks over there. Neil Graff at Navy Mantech, he's been a great partner in the past. If anyone ever gets a chance to work with him, highly recommend it. But yeah, so I've had the opportunity to collaborate with those folks. So
Thanks, Tara. Jamisa, how about you?
So I'm also going to take this a slightly different way. And yeah, Tara, my first go-to is always Google Scholar when I'm looking up
Yes.
what's been done so far before I, go on a wild goose chase. Um, a lot of things that we do here when we're collaborating, for example, with industry, and I'll relate this more on the aeronautic side, specifically a lot of the work that we do developing better materials for commercial airplane engines. Recently, we were able to do a lot of work from a project called High Tech, which is hybrid thermally efficient core, which is all tailored into reducing the size of commercial jet engines while still maintaining the amount of thrust you get out of them to ultimately improve those fuel efficiencies for mostly we're talking about 737 class aircraft, which is the majority of the planes that we fly in the US every day. And I really enjoy contributing to that in terms of myself and one of my colleagues developing better test methodologies for what my thesis work was related on, which was interactions of ingested dust particles, like desert sand and volcanic ash, into airplane engines, and how they interact with the protective coatings that we put on the components in the hot section. And so that was a super awesome project because it was something that this is something that people have worked on for decades, trying to mitigate these sort of interactions in engines, but there's never really been a comprehensive way of looking at these particle interactions in a laboratory environment using more relevant testing to what you would experience in an engine environment. High temperature, particle fluxes, different velocities, and looking at that transition from particle erosion to particle corrosion, especially as we're trying to make our airplane engines run at hotter temperatures. So working on developing and bettering those testing methodologies through this program, and where we were working with jet engine companies like GE, Rolls-Royce, Pratt and Whitney. I think that was a super cool experience, and ultimately that's going to help not only us, but also these engine companies develop better materials for their next generation airplane engine.
So it looks like Gabriella must have gotten kicked off. So we'll continue on and we'll catch up with her when she comes back. What trends or innovations do you think will most influence the future of manufacturing? Jamisa, I'll stay with you.
So from the material side, I think the main thing that is always in my frame of reference is additive manufacturing. And specifically, we here at Glenn, we have a lot of expertise in additive manufacturing with different high temperature and refractory metal alloys. But something that I'm super excited about is the sort of ongoing development I see in trying to develop better additive manufacturing techniques for ceramic materials. Ceramic materials is what I mostly specialize in. Ceramics are super awesome because they're these high temperature materials, but anyone who's worked with a ceramic knows that you really need hot temperatures. Machining them can be very difficult. Um, and getting a part that's, fully dense without defects can be a lot of trouble. We see this, well, in previous years with, for example, airplane engines. We're trying to incorporate ceramic matrix composites into the engine to make them more lightweight. A problem that a lot of companies dealt with is trying to manufacture those parts with little to no defects to get the beneficial properties that we want out of that composite microstructure. And so I see a lot of development from that standpoint, people using different techniques like incorporating short fibers into direct inkjet printing, using ceramic slurries to print different geometries. But I'm super excited to see where additive manufacturing and specifically applied to ceramic materials moves in the future.
Tara, you have any insights?
So one, I agree with Jamisa that additive in the area of ceramics, high temperature materials is definitely an area of growth that I think we need to go. Another area I see, and of growth. I don't know how fast it'll happen, is using artificial intelligence for, I'll, I'll say, whether it's predictive, for whether it's where bottlenecks will occur for factory flow type things, that type of predictive properties. I see that being, I'll say, lower hanging fruit. I think a lot of, because you have data, there's data available. So I see that up and coming. And then I wish there'd be more in the material side for materials manufacturing. So if anyone's on the line that is in that world, please invest in that area. I beg of you, please.
Great to see you back, Gabriella. We are talking about trends or innovations we think will most influence the future of manufacturing.
Yes,
What are your
sorry I
thoughts?
dropped issues here. I think the biggest one is AI, right? AI and digital manufacturing. I think Allison is very involved on that area, and we're seeing that across the industry, right? So definitely early stages for some are farther along the way, but AI is definitely going to be a technology that will transform how we operate and how we manage manufacturing from the different levels, right? What is the manufacturing shop to business operations, and how it all relates to in the whole value chain. I think sustainability is also a big trend that is coming. Definitely, we hear more and more in the industry. Companies have to be more sustainable. People are more conscious about their practices, how they are operating, how they're managing their facilities. What's the environmental impact of their product, their process, and so on. So there's a lot more attention to that. I don't know if those were talked before. Of course, I missed some of the conversation before. Definitely agree on the additive manufacturing. Definitely that has been there for some time. And I think from a material science, Alison, Jamisa, you probably are more familiar with that, but certainly the additive, it's been changing a little bit how we manufacture, especially some of those very low volume or complex parts too. And robotics, probably another one, right? Robotics is a big one. Robotics, automation. I mean, we talked about efficiency. I believe, Tara, you're in the day-to-day operations, so probably a big topic that you hear on your everyday. Allison, you're looking at the process all the time, right? So efficiency, it's always number one. How can I reduce cost? How can I make my process easier, better, faster, right? So I think those ones probably a little bit more technology that have been there for some time. But certainly, I think going forward, AI is probably going to be a big one. Like on all the technology on the data side, how do you manage data? How do you get visibility? How do you improve the process with that information? So, yeah.
Allison, you want to contribute too?
Yeah, I was going to say AI. AI specifically combined with digital engineering frameworks and methodologies. One of the main ones that come to my mind is digital twin, which honestly, I have in the past year, it's been really exciting to see that there is a lot more clarity being brought to how to clearly define what digital engineering terms mean. Like, what's the difference between a simulation and a digital twin, or what's the difference between the digital thread and the digital twin? So I think that that is something that we are hopefully going to start seeing a lot more value actually coming out of things, because there's a lot of people out there who are putting a lot of good work forth that are clearly defining what each of these terms are and what are the analytical tools that you can use to actually implement these. Because in the past, there has been, and I was told this time and time again during my dissertation studies, there is a really big confusion between just buying a technology or a software or some sort of advanced technology and just buying it and implementing it, and actually fundamentally restructuring our processes to get the most out of those technologies. And I think people are starting to realize that. So I think that realization combined with advances in AI, combined with more visibility coming out of these digital engineering frameworks, I think that's really going to be what is transforming manufacturing over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
How do you ladies keep up with the emerging trends and new technologies in the manufacturing industry? Gabriella, I'll start with you.
There's so much. Definitely personally, like continuous learning, right? I don't think ever throughout my career I have stopped learning, right? I've did my degrees. I have actually 3 degrees and very proud of them. I'm working on my fourth one, and it never stops. Like there's continuously new things coming out, and there's always something new to learn, even from work. I mean, and from the environment we live in, there's like things that come up. And I think I'm a very curious person, so I always get like into this like smaller courses, classes that are out there just to learn a little bit more. Certifications, I've always been curious about that, and I've learned a lot. Certainly that there's that like learning path. But I want to say like my circles, right? I'm very proud of like being part of the SME, being part of like some society organizations, professional or personal around my local circle. I think through my career, I partner with some partners that I still keep up contact, and I'm always hearing what's up, what's new, what's coming up. And it's always keeping me abreast of like what's new. And I've enjoyed and I treasure that because that's always been keeping me up to speed on emerging technologies, emerging trends, what's new and what's coming up. Definitely from that perspective, I think I like to keep myself up to speed on what's coming.
Jamisa, how about you?
So the nice thing about being a research engineer, it's actually written in the description of my job that like I have to go to conferences, I have to disseminate my research. So it's sort of built in that, you know, I always have to be on the mindset of what's new, what are the sort of things I can improve. It's my job to network with other people working on similar things, seeing what they're doing, how we can collaborate. And it's nice working at a institution that, you know, innovation is what we do. We want to make better research and technology for the benefit of all. And so having that extra motivation is also super nice.
Tara, how about you?
So I say that I actually subscribe to a lot of like let's say composites world, defense news, you know, all those types of magazines that do they'll send out a daily or weekly announcements on, hey, this is what's going on in the industry this week, this month, and you know, especially if you work for a company that doesn't have a large budget to send to conferences or training, you know, that type of thing. So that's nice, especially like with Chat GPT now, you can even have it, you know, can you give me the latest in the last, you know, last month on what happened in this area. So, you know, you can do things like that. But really my go-to is I get alerts, you know, via email from the, you know, the big areas that I'm interested in, additive, that type of thing. SME, you know, you guys send out lots of information. Actually, I get quite a bit from you all as well. So, and then you know, going to the AeroDef conference in Rapid, you know, those are kind of my two big conferences out of the year, which are both SME. That's where I get my information from. That's how I stay up on what's the latest in industry.
And Allison.
Yeah, I would say one of my most effective ways to really kind of get a pulse on trends has been going to conferences. I love going to the Defense Manufacturing Conference each year because from year to year, you see these trends and what people are talking about. And there's just something about when you get all these people together in one room to be able to, you just get to hear so many ideas at once. So really, I think conferences. Another thing that I do when looking at literature, which can be very tedious, going through Google Scholar, I found that it's very helpful to look at conference papers. You have lots of different types of academic literature. Journal articles are one, but another one is papers written at conferences. And one thing that I've been taught is that when you're looking at papers coming out of conferences, you're usually seeing some of the ideas as they're first coming out. So I think that those are very good resources. And then lastly, I've been experimenting, one of my students and I have been experimenting with using different AI literature review tools out there. We haven't been able to find one that we like necessarily, but it can be a good way to get, pick search terms for a topic you want to look at. Then it can pull all these different papers in and it can identify some themes across them. So it's definitely not probably where it needs to be yet. ChatGPT has actually been the most helpful one we found so far. But AI is something that I've been able to start using, and then I think it's going to be even easier to use as more developments come.
I'm actually putting quite a few of the resources that SME offers to keep you abreast of all that is going on, in news-wise, technology-wise. That's what we're here for. So for anybody who is not yet an SME member, take a look at all that we do offer. We are actually just about to wrap up. I want to thank before we do a quick wrap up, I would love one piece of advice each of you would offer to women interested in a career in manufacturing, but who might be uncertain about opportunities available. So I'm going to start with Jamisa.
So I'll say just in general, and I think I said this when we did our Empower Her panel as well. Most of the people on the call are probably some type of manufacturing scientist or engineer, but if you have someone in your life who, manufacturing speaks to them, but they might not think they might not have a skill for it, there's plenty of other things that you can do that can still support a manufacturing career. Like I always tell people, that, I work at this NASA center, and I think I was talking to a girl who was in school for finance, and she's like, oh, I can't work there. And I'm like, well, we still need people to handle our money. What are you talking about? You're super excited about working here. We need people to handle money. Why couldn't you work here? So in general, I would say if there's still something that you're passionate about manufacturing, where you think you might have a skill to support it, whether it's manufacturing or some other science or engineering field, I think there's always an opportunity for you.
Allison?
Yeah, so two things. First, I would recommend just going on YouTube. Find people that are doing it who are that you can relate to, who are giving you the lowdown on things, and you can find just so much from online videos that you can get out of. And then secondly, shameless plug, I would say join SME, especially if you're a student. It does not cost much, and you get access to all these things that Chantel just mentioned. And that was one thing when I was an undergrad that I really enjoyed doing was going to FabTech. They're all the different conferences are across the country. So you probably can find one that's close to you. And just go to them, see stuff, go to the events, and that can help you a lot. Help me.
Tara?
Oh, you muted.
Tara, you're muted.
I'm at a loss. There's so many things going through my head. I mean, whatever you do, even in manufacturing, you want to make sure that you enjoy it, because you're going to get up every day and need to go do it. So, like I said, you have to enjoy it. And whether it's finance in the manufacturing world or it's running a lathe in a woodworking area, make sure you enjoy it, because nothing's worse than dreading, not being able to sleep on Sunday night because you have to get up on Monday morning. So I know that's not exactly what you asked for, Chantel, but like I said, I have so many things going through my head. That's the best I can do right now.
No, that's great. I think that's not just specific to manufacturing. I mean, find something you love, and then you won't feel like you're working. Gabriella?
Yeah, I will echo everything, right? I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of people, right? I mean, I would say network is probably number one if you're not unsure about the opportunities or what a role means, like connect with the right people. People are very willing. There's very friendly people. There's a lot of people that are willing to collaborate. Just start talking and you'll be surprised, right? And then the other thing will be flexibility, right? If you're early in your career in particular and you don't know where you're going, just try something, right? Try a career in manufacturing, and then you'll start finding your way around the different manufacturing roles or the different areas, and you'll start finding what you like, what you don't like, where you want to end up. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, especially our wonderful panelists. Veronica said, one look at this panel and they'll see themselves in you. They'll know they are capable. I'm very proud of you all. Thank you so much. Great. Join us for our last Manufacturing Month program on November 6th. This will be a fireside chat with Shonali Ditz. She's the co-founder and executive director of Spark Shop. It's an organization based out of Chicago that they work with middle school students to teach them all about STEM. And if you're not already an SME member, today is an amazing time to join, as you could save up to 20% by signing up today using the code JOIN24. You can use the links sme.org/join24. It is found in the chat. And I do ask if you could take a brief moment to fill out a survey. Tell us, SME membership, the engagement team, how did we do today? Did you enjoy today's program? We're always looking for ways to improve and ensure that we're providing the best programming to you. So click the link in the chat box, and we appreciate your feedback. And we look forward to seeing many of you next Wednesday. Again, Jamisa, Allison, Tara, and Gabriella, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, guys.